Hi everyone, I'm Carilion Clinic's Karen McNew here with Dr. Robert Trestman, who is our chair for the Department of Psychiatry at Carilion Clinic and also chair of the Department of Psychiatry at the Virginia Tech Carilion School of Medicine. And we're here to talk about some of the questions that we know that you have and to hopefully provide some valuable insight and answers for you. First question, Dr. Trestman, are you concerned about an increase in substance abuse among people in recovery who no longer have access to some of those regular group programs?
The short answer is yes. Recovery in different kinds of substance use disorders really requires active support and ongoing treatment. So whether it is here at Carilion or in other community agencies, everyone has had to change the protocols that we have historically used to bring people in, to have face-to-face contact, to engage peer recovery specialists, to have groups. That kind of overall peer support has been really critical in helping to gain so much that we have over these last few years in treatment. What we've done now for the protection of everyone during this pandemic is eliminated virtually all face-to-face care unless it's an emergency. And so we are using telephonic connection, we're using video, we're developing video support. The same kind of thing is happening with the community support groups, with AA, with NA, and that we're hopeful will help. But the problem is that people are now isolated. They are away from a lot of the supports they otherwise might have and may fall back on the kinds of coping mechanisms they've historically used, which is to try to escape distress by using drugs. And so sadly, we are expecting the risks for relapse to go up.
And what can people do in recovery to stay on track?
To do everything they can to maintain contact with their support groups, whether it's by phone, whether it's by video, whatever will work for them. Writing letters, journaling, anything that they can use to maintain structure. And again, building structure in their lives is critical. So many of us, so many of our friends and family who become addicted lose structure in their lives. And so if they're able to use this as an opportunity to build on what they have been doing, to focus on today, what can we do, how can we plan for goals? I was just starting to reach these goals and then all of a sudden that's been taken from me. What are the things I need to do now and what can I do? So planning, having dedicated time during each day for phone calls or video talk with friends, with family, to maintain those connections, to actively work to think about what are the triggers that historically have led to drug use or other substance use, and to come up with strategies for alternative behaviors when those kinds of stressors occur. What can you do? Can you, whether it's working on a puzzle, whether it's singing at karaoke, whatever it might be, coming up with different strategies that will work for you as an individual so that you can come up with an alternate way of coping rather than the old style, which was using drugs.
Almost a roadmap in your mind of the choices that you plan to make.
It is virtually impossible for a human being to respond to the command, don't do something.
Right.
Don't think of a pink elephant. I mean, we're going to think of a pink elephant. It's just the way our brains work. The way we work is if we have a very well practiced alternative, we can make use of that. So it's important to come up and plan with what is it you will do when cravings begin, when you're feeling distressed, when there are difficulties. That is critical to this.
And then people from all walks of life are experiencing mental health challenges that they've never faced before. Help people define what they're feeling. Is it anxiety, depression, dread, grief, something else?
For many of us, it can be a combination of all of those things or just selected parts. We are faced with the unknown, pure and simple. So when we're faced with the unknown, virtually all of us become anxious. When we get anxious, if we don't have supports, we can start catastrophizing. If we start thinking about the catastrophes that may occur and focus on that, that can in turn lead to depression. So some of us are more biologically predisposed to depression than others, but for some, just if we feel that life is hopeless, that everything has been lost, that there will be no positive outcomes, that the world is constricting, and in some ways literally it is, because if you're sheltering in place, you're not going out, you can feel that your life is coming to an end. And so there are many reasons why so many of us might feel that way. Absolutely. There's logic and justification to all of those feelings of dread and anxiety, or even guilt for those of us who may have exposed other people before it became clear that those risks were there.
And then are there different kinds of grief in addition to losing a loved one that people might be experiencing now more than ever?
Oh, of course. Grief comes in so many different ways. The grief of any kind of a loss. For many of us who had a job, whether we knew it at the time or not, we take great pleasure in being with that team of people, of having that routine that reinforces our worth. Many of us define our worth, as adults at least, as the jobs we do and the positions we have as daughter, as son, as parent, as brother, as sister. And now a lot of those opportunities, those descriptions may not apply because we feel like we're not able to fulfill those roles. So all of that can lead to grief. For many of us, we will have lost jobs and grieving that and fearing that we might not get another one. The grief that can come with fear of losing your home if you can't pay for rent anymore. Will my landlord be there to say, I'll wait, I'll reduce the rent, I will delay.
Our ability to do traditional self-care, it seems that it can be a challenge too. I've seen messages on Facebook or social media where people say, I'm spending so much time at home and I should be keeping my house clean, but it's never been messier. So exercising, socializing, human touch, what should or can self-care look like these days when people may feel a little bit hopeless?
Part of it is remembering that we get to choose what we think. And if we are willing to structure our lives while we're isolated, we can turn this into an opportunity. We can, and I would really encourage everyone involved to set a plan, set a schedule. What am I doing today and tomorrow and the next day? At what time do I wake up? It should likely be the same time you would normally wake up if you had the job you did. Planning for your meals, when you're going to actually work. If you're working at home, structure it. If you have time when you would want to find out what's on the news, structure that, but limit it. Because simply focusing on all of the horrible things that we can see in the news can plummet anyone into real depression. So limit it. Some of us take great pleasure in seeing how bad things are.
Right.
There's that kind of guilty joy in that. That's okay. That's okay, but keep it short and focused and limited. Have dedicated time to reach out to others. Maintain your social support network, whether it's texting or phone calls or social media, whatever it is, do it. Have a dedicated time for that. Have a dedicated time for fun. Just to watch stuff on your computer, on your television, but limit it. Have dedicated time for something that you've always wanted to do but never had the time to do. An hour a day for what am I going to learn today? Is it going to be something about a new language or a place I'm hoping to visit in a couple of years. Study it, learn it. And then finally, make sure you dedicate some time for exercise. It's so critical now that we maintain physical health, even more so, because so many of us historically have, well, I just don't have time for exercise. I've got to take care of my family. I've got a job. I've got to do this. Now you may have the time. And inside the house, just with whether it's YouTube or other videos, you can be guided in stretching, in just calisthenics and things you can do in the house without a lot of equipment if you don't have it. But if you structure your day that way, you will find meaning, you will find value, and you will you'll come out of this with a greater sense of control and pride in yourself.
Thank you. How can people recognize when it's time for them or a loved one to reach out for help beyond friends or family? When do we know that we need to seek assistance from a counselor, a physician, a nurse practitioner, a healthcare professional?
There's no single answer to that because so many ways everyone is different. But typically, if your function is impaired, if you can't get out of bed, if you find that you can't take joy in the things that would normally bring you pleasure, if you're starting to lose weight, if you can't concentrate or focus, if there's some kind of impairment at that level, by all means, reach out. And that may be to your pastor, it may be to clergy in general, it might be to a healthcare professional. What we have done in virtually all healthcare, certainly in mental illness treatment, is turn to technology. We're providing a lot of care simply on the telephone, as well as through video. And so we're doing so much more so that even if you're in your home, we will work to find ways to support you.
And then we talked about how structure can make a big difference with our mental health. Are there any other mental health strategies people can use at home and with online resources that you would recommend, just to revisit some that have been sprinkled in through our conversation?
Certainly. I think that if you turn to here in Roanoke, and in this region, turn to Carillion's website. There'll be a lot of material available for you, on strategies and coping through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, through the National Institute of Mental Health. There will be wonderful resources that will give you ideas, and from those ideas, you'll find which ones will work for you.
How should people be using the internet now to protect their mental health, in particular social media? You mentioned that that could be a way to connect with people and keep that sort of social interaction that might be useful.
Unlike other settings where you would be, years ago, if we were locked in our homes or apartments, that's it. I mean, so now though, we are connected with the world still as long as you have a phone. If you have enough bandwidth where you are, you may then be able to continue to search the libraries of the world and visit the museums virtually. So what I would really encourage people to do is not to just look for all of the horrible things that are happening in the world, but rather use this as an opportunity to search for things that will make you feel good. Certainly, whether you like pictures of cute kittens or dogs, that's fine. But also make use of it for, if there are kinds of art that you enjoy or music that you enjoy. There's so much richness available now. You can take a virtual tour of museums in Paris and London and New York without ever getting on a plane. And so there are these wonderful opportunities that the internet can provide to us right now that can take us out of the anxieties that we may be otherwise experiencing.
And then does keeping up with the news help people cope or make the situation worse?
It can do either. Having a sense of, are things locally starting to get worse, leveling off, getting better? that can be of real use. But if you dive into it and look for every place in the world where people are suffering or dying, and you focus on that, it's hard not to think that that's what's going to happen next to me. And so I would really encourage people to limit the amount of time they spend searching the internet for news of things and how bad they are everywhere. If you wish to do it, that's fine, but limit it to a very, very structured, smaller part of the day, rather than doing what you might think would be enjoyable and just finding about all of the horrors. It will, you have no control over it. It will worsen how you feel, and it will make you feel powerless. So focus it, limit it, and spend your time on the internet looking for things that will feel powerful, enabling, or just plain fun.
Okay, what would you say to people who are experiencing a loss of purpose when they can't work or go to school or train for an event?
First, acknowledge how frustrating it is. There are so many people whose shorter term and even longer term goals have been derailed. That's absolutely true. So don't deny the fact that all of that's happened. It's important to acknowledge it. But then to take the next step. Okay, what can I do about it? If I am an athlete, what kinds of training can I still do that will keep me in good shape, even if there is no event that I'm likely going to be able to train for in the short term? For those with resources, there are online different kinds of interactive things where you can compete with others online, whether it's on a bicycle in your home that's connected with others, and that sort of initiative. There are, for those who have lost a job, think about, well, is that a job you want to go back to? Or is it time now to start training for what you want to do next? And if you don't know what you want to do next, start exploring what kinds of things interest you. This is a great opportunity to look at what kinds of jobs are likely going to be available in the months ahead, and what kinds of things do you need to do to be competitive to get one of those jobs. And then look around for resources on the web to train, to gain experience. And so if you set realistic goals, you can accomplish a great deal online. There are so many different educational opportunities that are available for free on the internet. Look for them. You'll find them.
And on that note, it caused me to think of, if you have a household where one person is still working and one person can no longer work, does that create some challenges within the home? And is there anything important to keep in mind there for supporting each other?
It can, of course, create real challenges. Part of any relationship like that is open communication. It sounds simple, it is simple, but doing it's really hard. It means that you have to share how you're feeling. I am scared, I am frustrated, you get to work, I don't have that kind of work. If you can openly discuss it and plan, well, what things can you do together? How can you, the non-working individual, help the one who is working? How can you work together as a team? Even when there's that kind of disparity, because there are ways, and you can find them. If you're comfortable enough to admit, okay, here's the current situation, let's talk about it, and let's make the very best of it, so that when we're done with this, the two of us are stronger in our relationship.
Excellent advice. What kinds of mental health challenges can we expect to see as time goes on?
Inevitably, we will be seeing, because of a lot of the social isolation, because of lost jobs, because of fears of losing all of the opportunities that were available, people are going to have new onset depressions, new onset anxiety disorders, traumatic disorders, or worsening of pre-existing conditions. We realistically expect that that is what will happen. We unfortunately expect that for many people with addictive disorders, they will likely have worsening because of the changes that occurred. There are ways that individuals can work to prevent it, but we do expect that these are genuine risks. And so what all of us around the nation are encouraging people to do is to plan for it. Think through what are your own risks and reach out for support, whether it's through your religious group, through other social connections, through your family, for initial support. If things start getting worse, reach out to the healthcare community. So many of us have already transformed our care delivery into virtual care. You will not even need to leave your home. This is new for all of us, but you will not need to leave your home. You'll be able to reach out and get care by telephone, by video link. So much of what we can do, we can now bring to you if you recognize the problem, acknowledge it, and are willing to reach out.
Are there any other final thoughts that you might have, anything that you'd like to add?
Only that we will get through this. It's testing us as individuals, it's testing us as communities, it's testing our ability to come together as larger communities and a nation. But I think that what we are finding is that people are indeed coming together, we're being innovative, we're being creative, and so the other challenge is, while it may be something we desire to go back to the way things were before the COVID-19 pandemic, they may never return to the same status. So we need to get comfortable with wondering what's going to be the opportunity, what are going to be the changes, what will the world look like? And that will be different. And so we're going to have to learn how to tolerate those changes. And the degree to which we can embrace those changes and see how we can make a difference in our own lives and those of our families, we will do well.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Trestman. Excellent advice for us today. We hope that you have found some benefit from our conversation, and thank you for joining us.